All right, it's kit time. SKUE 13493. Let's get it onto a tray. Got a lot of parts in this one. Pretty big number of parts. Look at all the sockets. All right, so what is it? We have a lot of display and a lot of chips. And there it is. There's the display. It's a clock. Hours, minutes, seconds, and lots of resistors. Look at those 510 ohms all the way across. Really cool. So this is a really old school clock, I guess. Let's see. What are the parts on here? Yeah, it's all 4000 series. 4013. Oh gosh, the lighting is wrong here. 4060, 4511. Yeah, well, let's see here. We got instructions, so let's take a look at those. And we have a schematic. It's going to be hard to read here. Let's see. Let me zoom down. Can you see that? I can barely see it. So we have some 4511 counters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, these are all the same, 4511s. And so those are the display drivers. So they're 4 bits in. Yeah, they're not counters. They're 4 bits in and 7-segment display output. So this is the decoder chips. And then the counters are down here. They are 4518s. So we do the counting here. And then we have some kind of oscillator here, a 4060. Oh, I used to use those all the time, 4060s. They're a cool chip, multi-decade, not multi-binary counter, I think. And then it uses a clock chip, a 32768. Yeah, so really old school design. This is really cool. This is great. If you want to learn some digital logic, this is a good board. See how the old school TTL type days did things. There's a QR code here. Should we do the QR code? Sure, why not? Let's see, where is my QR code reader? Here we go. All right, what does it say? It's all in Chinese. And it tells you how to solder. It gives you another schematic. Tells you how to solder. Tells you how to read color codes. Tells you what to do. So, yeah. For us, forget it. All right, let's build it. That's what we're here for. Let's build it. Nice board. Really high quality, nice and thick. Yeah, very nice. Everything's labeled, so no need to go grab instructions. We will just build it. It looks like everything is socketed. Very nice. Okay, what do you think? I think I will start with the 510 ohm resistors. I think that's a fine place to start. And we have a lot of them. Definitely have a lot of those. Let's get them out of the bag here. All right. Yes, indeed. It's very rainy today. Good to be in the garage, working on something. Wow, we have a lot of resistors. I didn't even read the color code on these. I just knew there was a lot of them. I figured they're the right value. Only one there should be a lot of. Red. Looks like red. Huh? That's not 5. Oh, here it is. You have to read the other way. See, I never can read these stupid color codes. There's the green. That's 5. And there's a 2. Looks like 52. 51. See, the colors are just crazy on these things. That's supposed to be brown. It looks very, very red to me. Looks like 520K, not 510K. 510 ohms, not. It looks like 520 ohms, not 510 ohms. Kind of spit it out. I'm going to be very good, and I'm going to put them all. So when you put the resistors down, a lot of times say, you make them all lined up so they don't look funny. And what I mean by that is the bands. So if you have, red, green, blue, and the other one is blue, green, red, and it just looks funny. So you put them all so they look nice. The only reason I'm doing that, usually I ignore that. I really don't care. But in this case, you're going to be looking at the display and you're going to see this, and there's so many of them next to each other. They're just going to look wrong if they aren't even. So, neatness counts, right? That's what they say. Neatness counts. I'm not sure about that, but it is a saying. I went to school with a lady in a physics major in college, and I think she was better than all of us. I think she had the highest scores in all of us, but she was interested in oceanography. And anyway, she brought in a example once of her elementary school where they taught her how to do cursive writing. I think she was from I don't know if she was from Australia, or I don't think she was from this country. And they grilled it into them to have this perfect handwriting. She had this beautiful handwriting. It was just gorgeous. And then by the time she got to college, she had just thrown it all away. Her handwriting was awful like the rest of us. Well, it wasn't awful. Mine's always been terrible. Hers was better than mine, but still not. Still like it was at one time. Nobody does. Do they teach cursive writing in school anymore? I don't think they do. I think if you show cursive writing to a young person today, they can't even read it. I don't think they even know what it is, what the font is. I don't think they can comprehend it. Which is kind of strange, but I guess that's okay. You don't see a lot of it anymore, that's for sure. You don't see a lot of people using fountain pens. I told you about my professor, right? He taught mechanics in college, and physics mechanics, not car mechanics. And he only used a ballpoint. He only used a fountain pen. There was 2 professors that used fountain pens. Maybe it was the thing. The professor who taught nuclear physics, nuclear physics, he also used a fountain pen. He used to do the New York Times crossword puzzle in fountain pen, of course. But didn't really like that guy too much. But the other guy I really liked him a lot. And when you went to him for help, he would always look at it, and then he would pull out his fountain pen out of his top shirt pocket, where it always was. And he would deliberately unscrew it very slowly, put the cap on the back. And while he was unscrewing it, he would always say, "Well, what do we know?" And he would write it down. We know the velocity, we know the distance, we know this, we know that, right? And then what can we derive from that? Tick, 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 tick. You know, what can we deduce from that? And by the time he got to the bottom of the page, he had worked the entire problem perfectly and beautifully in fountain pen ink. Never made a mistake. And he was a great baritone. He used to be the baritone in the Gilbert and Sullivan plays. Very good voice. Very good voice. I used to play in the pit orchestra in the stage productions as a cellist. And Gilbert and Sullivan was a fun thing. Okay, I think we got enough of those. We can start soldering. Remember we did HMS Pinafore. I'm the captain of the Dewdrop. It's an ocean-going ship. Okay. I did a couple Gilbert and Sullivans. I don't remember the other ones. It's been too long ago. Playing in a pit orchestra is really, really fun. Because you don't need to dress up, because nobody's going to see you. The audience doesn't see you directly. And so you get away with a lot of shenanigans in pit orchestras. And you have a lot of downtime too. You're sometimes waiting. So if it's a musical, there might be a lot of dialogue, and then you're waiting for the next musical part, so you have nothing to do. So it is much different than playing a symphony, where it's the music constantly for 20 minutes or whatever symphonies go for. Symphonies have their own charm. Just to enjoy Shostakovich and more modern. Used to enjoy Bach, but not symphonies, of course, but chamber music. But if you play the cello, like if you play the bassoon or the cello or the viola, there's certain instruments where you don't get a lot of good parts, and depending on the composer. So some composers, I remember. It was Mozart had really, really boring cello parts, and Bach had much more interesting cello parts, of course. And Shostakovich had good cello parts. Performed the Fifth Symphony. That was good. I don't know who did the Ninth or not. I don't remember. Fifth and Ninth are pretty famous. Kind of lost interest in chamber or classical music, but kind of been revived a bit. I don't know if you guys listen to what is it? Two-set violin. Practice 40 hours a week. Ling Ling Challenge. That's a fun channel. And they introduced me to Hilary Hahn, who I believe is the best violinist of all time. You know, there's Heifetz and Perlman and Stern and those guys, and they have their own style. It's a bit schmaltzy for me, to use some Yiddish, but Hilary Hahn is just pitch perfect, and what I enjoy from her is that she really enjoys the music. If you've ever known music students are a fun crowd. And you end up with these concert people who are just not fun people. Oh my God, they're just not fun. There's a pianist who's probably the best pianist around. Margaret, is that her name? Anyway, she's a great pianist, but just an awful person. Hillary Hahn, she's fun. I used to really enjoy chamber music with real musicians, real people who loved the music and didn't take themselves seriously. Oh my God. People who overthink classical music, and they just think their whatever doesn't stink, and it just they just drive me nuts. But if you can find people who really enjoy the music, it really shows, and it comes out in the music too. If you play conservatively but accurately, it sounds really boring. But if you play loosely and with great passion, you might make a mistake. You might not be perfect, but it sounds so much better. And Hillary does both. She plays perfect and fun. Amazing. All right, I think this is going to take a long, long time. I don't know if I want to. I don't think I want to film this entire thing. I don't know if you want to listen to me yap for an hour. I don't know if I want to yap at myself for an hour. This must be the boring. This is like watching grass grow, right? Soldering resistors. Oh my goodness. How many resistors are there? There's a trick. You want to see the trick? So you use so these are on 1/10 centers, and you have a 1/10 ruler. So you put the 1 here, and then you can read off how many there are, right? So there's 49. So it just completely reads off. You don't need to count them, you just can measure them. Kind of fun. So 49 resistors. Ways to go. 7 times 7, I guess, right? If I remember last. My math degree failed me yesterday. Oh my God, I was so embarrassed. My daughter was talking about something, and she asked me some definition of some math thing, and I completely failed. Oh well, it's been too long. I'm a mathematician by degree only, not by education. Does that make sense? No. Not by... Don't do a lot of mathematics. Maybe that's a better way to put it. I couldn't even read... So I have an encyclopedia of mathematics that I referred to because it's kind of like my Bible. And if you take math long enough, there comes a place where you take a class called axiomatic set theory. And it is basically the proof that mathematics works, or the proof of the mathematical construct. It's like this is how we're going to define mathematics. This is why it works, how it works. This is what we all agree to. And it's all done in set theory and set nomenclature and set equations, and so-and-so was a member of this and an element of that, and it overlaps, and there's Venn diagrams and that kind of stuff. And they prove all of mathematics with axiomatic set theory. And there was a definition for this particular thing. It was And I couldn't even read the symbols any longer. X is an element of set so-and-so, and it's all weird little squiggles. And I knew it at one time, but I had to read the English. Luckily, I had English, but it was sad that I couldn't even read the equation. Oh well. I only used it once to pass the class, and never again. So I guess I could forget it. I guess that's an okay thing. All right, I'm coming up on the half-hour mark here, so I need to change my camera, otherwise it's going to time out. All right, so I will continue and put down all of the the boring stuff is going to be all of the resistors and all of the sockets. So I'll do that and come back. All right, back from Target and lunch. Lunch was Burger King, so wasn't all that great, but it was okay. Had a chicken sandwich. Let's see here. So we have all the sockets on. I think the next thing to do would be to put some LEDs on. Make sure these are nice and straight and even, because if they're crooked, your clock is not going to look good. Definitely not going to look good. And these legs are bent. I don't want to go in the holes. Anyway, I don't know, where's my story left off? I was talking about music, talking about physics, the college days. Played a lot of music in the college days. Still play some music now. I do not play cello though. Couldn't find anybody I liked. I looked for a string quartet to play with, but everybody was too snooty. Oh my God. Oh well. So, play the guitar. That's more interesting anyway. All right. All right, how does that look? Those look straight. That one looks fairly straight. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, there it is. I thought I was short one. It was hiding. I'm only tacking it on with diagonal leads, and then I can straighten things out later. Make sure it looks good first, then solder the rest. And those look pretty good. I'm kind of limited in the kits that I can find. Unfortunately, there are lots of clock kits, but oh well, it's something to do. It's like jigsaw puzzles are always of snowy scenes or something. I don't know. I guess there's lots more jigsaw puzzles, but I don't know what a good analogy is. Some things are kind of limited in their scope. All right, so are we ready to do the final soldering? Everything looks pretty straight to me. All right. So the impeachment trial is on TV, and it reminds me of my legal experience. When I finally retired, well, I semi-retired, right? I semi-retired and was consulting. So for about 5 years, I was on my own, had my own little company and consulted. Various consulting gigs, you know, all technical in nature. A lot of startups need help. So I worked at startups, biotech startups, and eyeglass display startups and stuff. Some quite famous you would know of. You always sign a non-disclosure agreement, so you can't talk about who you worked for, but the big names. And so I did that, and sometimes it was just a couple hours. Sometimes it was, you know, onwards to a year of like part-time. I had one job where all I did was go to the Wednesday engineering meetings, and the guy said to me that I was the seatbelt. That you hope you never have to use it, but glad you've got it if you need it. And so my job was to listen to what the engineers were doing, and if anything sounded a bit odd, I would speak up. And so I would say once or twice a meeting I might say something, and there was occasions where I basically stopped them and said, no, don't do that, that's a dumb idea. You know, you should do this, or you know, have you considered this? Oh, no, we haven't, you know, and they would go different direction and stuff. So it's very interesting that I would just be on staff, you know, maybe 3 hours a week, right? That was it. Did that for a company for a while. Quite interesting. That was a biotech company. Worked on cell phone cameras. I worked on big cameras. Anyway, so I was getting around to my legal stuff. One of the last jobs I had, the last couple of years of before true retirement, where I don't do anything anymore, was being an expert witness in court cases. So there are patent litigations, and during these patent litigations, they need expert witnesses to come in and give their expert opinion on patents. And so you spend some of your time trying to find prior art and learn about the prior art, and then try to make arguments of why the prior art either was or wasn't invalidating to the patent that you own, or that the other side owns and stuff. And it was quite interesting. It was certainly the best money I ever made in my life. You can charge a ton of money. Oh my God. Yeah, lawyer money is good. Legal money is good. Forget the engineering stuff. If you go into engineering, don't expect to get rich. But yeah, the legal costs are just phenomenal. I heard of one expert witness making $900 an hour. Craziness, craziness. But even half of that is legitimate, right? I could charge half of that, it'd be fine. Yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy. Okay, what are we going to do here? Yeah, it was a lot like, part of it was a lot like school, studying for exams. You would spend, what am I going to do here? I'm going to put in some resistors. Now let's put in some diodes. So you would spend a long time investigating these patents and stuff. You would look at their research, you would do your own research, you would find things, you would opine on it, you would write opinions, and there would be this big document. And in one case I did, there was, I think, 11 patents, and ended up writing you write this document. As an expert witness, you write a document. You don't actually write it, the lawyers write it, but I mean, you write parts of it. It ended up being 2,000 pages. And the title page says, so-and-so's expert opinion, and it's your name on it. So your name is on a 2,000-page document, 2,000 pages, all technical or legal, about the different patents and which ones and why and fors and all this craziness, and then why you think it's true or why you think it's false. Or does it infringe? Does it not infringe? All these opinions you give. 2,000 pages. And then there comes a time where you have to give a deposition. And the deposition is you in a room with your lawyer and their lawyer, and they ask you questions. The other side asks you questions. And they get 11 hours. 11 hours. And you go into the room with nothing. You're not allowed any notes. You're not allowed anything. So that 2,000-page document they have in front of them, and they're going to ask you questions about it. So imagine that. You've written a 2,000-page document, and now they're going to try to poke holes in it. And they're going to ask you all these questions. Well, on page, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And so it's like taking an oral exam in college. It's like final. It's like your dissertation. It's like, okay, you said you know all this stuff. Now we're going to test you. And for 11 hours, they grill you. And you're on microphone and you're on video, and they can use it in court later on. They can pull that tape and say, well, you know, during the deposition, you said this, and now you're saying this. Are you lying then, or are you lying now? That kind of thing. So, yeah, you earn your keep. You definitely earn the money. That was a wild business. I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I don't think I'd enjoyed it early in life, but I did enjoy it later on. So it's interesting. So where did they find expert witnesses? And you can't be hired. I mean, you can't have a job. If you have a job, then you're associated with a company. If you're associated with a company, then you can't do this work. So there's only a small subset of the population that can actually do expert witness stuff. First of all, you have to be an expert, right, in the particular field. Then you have to be a really, really good expert in the field. And then you can't be employed. So really the only people they have to pull from is college professors and retired folk. So you're basically always, me being a retired folk, I'm always up against these university professors. So it was really, really fun. I mean, if you ever wanted to be able to get back at your professors, if you ever wanted to like show them up, or it's like, okay, you put me through all of this, now I'm going to put you through it, right? Yeah, being an expert witness is fun. And there's a lot of, I talk on my channel a lot about education and experience and stuff, and whether or not you really just know the theory or really can do it. And a lot of professors, they just know the theory and they've never really done it. They really just have never faced certain problems. They theoretically, they might know something or other, right? But theory doesn't get you all of the way there. Theory only gets you part way. So it was sometimes fun to catch them into these problems. I enjoyed it, at least. I've always been the underdog in my profession because I've always been surrounded by PhDs. Now, nothing negative about PhDs. I know lots of friends who have PhDs, and lots of them are really, really good. But I've also met a lot of PhDs who think they know what they're doing and don't. And the problem is they refuse to take any advice. I don't know. What was really fun in business, you know, when you get up there in years in a business, you know, raise your hand if you've experienced that people stop listening to you. Even though you have the most experience, they stop listening to you because management starts getting younger and younger, and they don't want to listen to the old guy. It makes them look bad, right? And so they start ignoring you, and they stop at taking your advice, and then they get themselves into trouble, but whatever. But when you go into the consulting business, you go to startups where there's only, you know, maybe 6 employees in the company, and they need help. And when they hire you, they hang on your every word. And so it's fun. Then the PhDs highly respect experience over education. And it's really, really quite different than a large corporation. I think startups are very, very interesting places. And in the courtroom, it was interesting too, you know. You have to be an expert witness, so you have to pass certain qualifications, you know. How much do you know? What have you published? You know, blah, 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 blah. You know, and I would walk in and they would say, well, Dr. blah, 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 so blah, blah, blah. And I'd have to correct them and say, no, it's Mr. Well, you're not a doctor? No, I'm Mr. I have a bachelor's degree, right? And that always threw them. And I always wondered, you know, I asked my legal team, which was a really, really big, powerful legal team. I mean, they were one of the biggest in the United States. They had a lot of money, and I was playing with big boys. I was representing large Japanese corporations and American corporations and big names. And you would think they would want me to have a PhD. You would think. How could you be an expert witness if you have a bachelor's degree? How could that be true? And well, you don't need a PhD to be an expert. You definitely don't. And I asked the lawyer once, I says, why did you pick me? You know, got all these fancy PhDs in it. Why did you pick me? And he said, well, and more along the lines of, you know, well, how does this work? You know, I says, how do you get a jury to understand something that's very, very, very technical? I mean, you're hiring me as an expert witness, and there's not that many in the world. And how do you expect jurors to understand this stuff? You know, I was representing this camera company in Japan. You know, the #1 camera company in Japan, and they had lots of cameras. And it was all about image sensors, and I asked the expert witness in the image sensors, and how do you expect them to know this stuff? And he goes, I don't. He goes, what jurors are good at? And I asked him, I says, so why do you want jurors? You know, if it's so technical in nature, why don't you just have a judge make the decision? He goes, oh, no, I'd rather have a juror. I said, why? Why jurors? He goes, well, the jurors will understand a little bit of the, you know, don't underestimate. They'll understand a little bit of the technology. But he says, but what they're really, really good at, and what they're really, really good at, is smelling bullshit. He says, they're really good at that. And so I'm able to explain things in easy terms, and I'm believable. jurors will love me. Okay. It was fun. Definitely fun. 103 is a .01. Yep. Yeah, expert witness is great if you're retired because most of it is, you know, research and writing, and you have phone meetings and stuff, and you can do it all at home. So during the COVID or for retirement, I mean, I could pick the hours that I worked, right? So my productive hours are morning up till about 10 in the morning. And then I would take the rest of the day and just do my day stuff. And then I would start working again around 8 at night. And, you know, put in my day that way. It was very nice to break it up. And I got to work during the hours where I know my brain works the best. Certainly doesn't work after lunch. My brain just shuts down after lunch. It's after lunch right now, and I'm just kind of zoned out. Some consulting, technical consulting, you can kind of pick your own hours too if you're writing software or doing hardware design or something like that. But most of the time it's their hours. You need to be at their location, and you do a lot of travel, and it's not as relaxing. Definitely not as relaxing. Not that expert witness was all that relaxing, but. All right, my camera timed out, so I don't know where my story ended, so I'll just begin a new story. All right, how are we doing here? So, I was talking about my legal days. I remember one, well, you practice, right? Before you go to the jury or before you go to deposition, you practice. They pretend to be the other side, and they have the good cop, bad cop, and they get you ready for it, right? You're not going in cold. They get you ready for it. And one of the things they taught me was, no matter how stupid the question is, you answer it. And you do not correct them. You do not say, oh, I think you meant this. No. You let them ask their question, and then you let them answer it. And you hope that the other side just does dumb things. You're hoping the other side's going to do dumb things. And that happened to me. I was in the middle of a deposition, and the other side started asking me questions about a figure, a drawing in the patent. It was a schematic. And they were asking me the functions of these different items, and what does this do? What does that do? You know. And they asked me about this particular thing. What does that do? I don't remember the question they posed, but it was really stupid. It was a really stupid question, the way they had posed it. I know what he meant, but he didn't ask it right. So I answered him the way that his question was posed. And he wasn't quite sure what to do, because I answered it in a weird way. Now, whenever lawyers smell blood, they go after it. So he thought I was making a mistake. So he was going to go after me. So he spent the next half hour grilling me about this schematic. And his questions were all dumb, the way he was posing them. But I answered them very nicely and honestly. And then every so often you get to take a potty break, and then you finally get to talk to your lawyer. How's it going? You know, oh, you're doing good. You know, keep it up, or you know, you should like avoid that, or you know, whatever. Right? They give you advice, and he goes, yeah, you're really doing well with that question, right? And it was clear the other side just was messing up. they just didn't understand it. You know, the lawyer's not I mean, he's got an engineering degree. He's not a dummy, but you know, he's not an expert in this particular thing. Then he just got it wrong. Anyway, so we come back in the room after half an hour, after, half an hour on their side. We take a 10-minute break. We come back in, and he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, well, that didn't go well, did it?" So he knew he had wasted the last half hour with nonsensical stuff. And I just smiled. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, it's fun. It really is a game. It really is a fun game. Okay. Coming down to the wire here. We've got a couple. Let me turn on ohm meters so I don't get these wrong. I need to find a 100K and a 10 megohm. 10 megohm, wow. What's this one? This one is a 4.7. We don't want that one. This one is a 100K. Okay. And now we need a 10 megohm. Let's see if we can find that. 10 megohm, yeah. Nice. Wonder what the 10 megohm does. Okay. All right. What's missing? What's missing? That's all loaded. That's all loaded. That's all loaded. 2 buttons. Little switch here. And I don't see anything left. I do not see anything left. So let's stick in some ICs. Let's see. We have 45, 45 11s. We have a lot of 45 11s, so we can stick those on. So that's still on camera, yeah. Okay. 55 11, 45 11s. 45 11. Anyway, that was a good last job to have. It left me with a good taste in my mouth, you know. My previous job left me with a bad taste in my mouth. Just didn't like the place. I was wondering if anybody has. That's 45. I used to call it voting with my feet. If you work in a place where you just don't agree, and you can make your point, you can try to get them to change, but there comes a point where the only thing you have left to do is quit. And I used to call it voting with my feet, and I had to do that twice in my career. I voted with my feet, quit my job. It's hard to do. A lot of people don't have that luxury. They get stuck and they will be in a dead-end job for a long time. Must be awful. I was fortunate enough to be able to be re-employed someplace else, but 4518. I wonder what that is. 4518. I didn't quit my last job. My last job I retired from. About the last two years was awful. I knew I was going to retire, and I just wrote it out. I wrote it out too long. I was a terrible employee the last 2 years because I just had a bad attitude. Definitely had a bad attitude. But I did good work. Gave them lots of patents, and they were happy with me. It was not a fun place to work. So retirement allowed me to do some good things. Consulting was great. I loved consulting. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I felt good about myself. Felt like I was making a difference. People listened to me. It was great. Really, really good. And then the legal stuff was very, very good. It's quite honoring to be called an expert and have people really revere you. It's a nice way to end your career. Definitely a nice way. All right, one more IC and we can turn it on, I guess. What do you think? Think it'll work? Think it'll work? It's all digital. All we need is 5 volts. So let's stick a little couple short wires in there so we can grab it with grabbers, micro hook, whatever those things are. All right, there's a wire. Here's a wire. Okay, so before you turn anything on, I like to do a couple things. One, I like to make sure that everything pin 1 is where pin 1 is supposed to be. You don't want to have an IC backwards, so that all looks good. And then just take a quick look at the back. I'll use a magnifying glass and just look for solder bridges. I did create one solder bridge while I was soldering and I had to correct it, so I know I did it at least once. And take a look to see if I did it again. Everything looks fine. All right, let's see if it works. Is that a funny angle for the camera? There we go. How about that? All right, power supply set to 5 volts. It's at 12 right now, so let's turn it down. 5 volts. 5 volts. All right, ground and +5. Hey, it lit up. Look at that, and it flashes. Okay, I guess that means that, hey, you better set something. And what if I push a button? Nothing happens. Oh, there we go. That one's changing. Okay, so what time is it? It is 1. Oh, it's a 24-hour clock. Yeah, so we'll set it to 13. 13. It is 13:47. $13.47. And I'm assuming this might be a go button. Yeah, there we go. There it goes. It works. All right. Can you see that? There we go. That looks better. Hide the... Let me turn the room lights off. That'll be even better, right? Whoa, look at that. Yeah, it's a nice looking display. That's a nice clock. I like having the seconds. I don't like clocks that don't have seconds because then it doesn't look like it's doing anything. I'm not crazy about the flashing colons, but whatever. At least you know it's going. I'd rather just have that, know that it's going. So I really like this kit. I don't remember what I paid for it. I'll put the link in the description of where this came from and how much it was, but it wasn't a lot. I would definitely recommend this as a first kit for anybody. It's all digital, so you can't get in trouble too far. Lots of soldering, so keep somebody occupied for a long time. But it's like soldering where there's nothing to go wrong, right? It's all just resistors and dip packages and stuff. So there's really nothing to go wrong. Everything's nicely spaced apart. So it is easy to solder, but it's not a trivial kit, which is nice. So it does take you several hours to do, and you end up with something that's functional. And I think the problem with this clock is going to be if you lose power and you repower it on. Oh, it remembered. How did it remember? Let's see. Oh, maybe it's 100 microfarad here. Let's let it bleed down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so this 100 microfarad might keep it up for a while. But I'm sure it's going to forget, right? There's no logic in here to remember, so let's start it back up again. And it still remembered. That's really interesting. There's nothing in here to make it remember. So I think, because these are all CMOS parts, I think it's just able to wait a long time and remember for a long time before the power comes back on. But I'm sure every time you lose power on this thing, you're going to have to set the time again. All right, let's try again. I'm amazed. I'm amazed. Let me short out this 100 microfarad capacitor and see what happens. Just for fun. Just for fun. All right. Yeah, there we go. That's amazing. That little tiny 100 microfarad capacitor really held the time for a long time. So yeah, there you go. It's a fun kit, nice looking kit. There's no box, but you don't need an AC supply. Some of the really old, I showed one that I did that was a design from the 1970s that required you to have a transformer because it used that 60 cycles to do the timing, but this one has a crystal on it, so you only need 5 volts. And 5 volts is a really nice supply also. It's easy to find an old wall wart that you saved, and you can just power this up from a wall wart and be done with it. So yeah, highly recommended, good. Hope you didn't get bored with my stories. There you go.